Hello again, everyone. This presentation is going to be about how to give feedback, or as we sometimes call it, constructive criticism. In this presentation about giving feedback, we're going to look at what the meaning of giving feedback is, what the process looks like, and then also what the feedback itself looks like. One of the first things that we want to think about is what comes to our minds when we hear the words giving feedback. For a lot of people, hearing the words giving feedback or constructive criticism starts to cause them a lot of anxiety or stress because they've had issues in the past with feedback being long, the process of it being boring, really hard to get through, and also focused on a lot of grammar. So for this presentation, what we want to think about is that these types of things are not what we want to focus on, and actually what I think in general feedback should not be focused on. Instead, the feedback that we will be working on for this class is going to be focused on the entire work that we produce, or what we call holistic, so all aspects of the writing. So we want to be able to ask ourselves questions like, do the ideas that we're reading in this work fit together, and do they make logical sense? Is everything related to the topic at hand? Are there clear examples? And is everything flowing as it should? Also, does the writing fit the style and the task? For example, if I'm writing a paper that is comic and has lots of funny examples and quotes and pictures and things like that, this would obviously not be appropriate for something like a concept note or an MOU. Even if it is a perfectly written and perfectly grammatical paper, if it does not fit the context, it is still not a good paper. We have a few steps that we can use when we start to give our feedback that helps to make this process a little bit easier for us and also easier for the person who is going to be receiving this feedback. The first and most obvious step is to read the whole work first. If you have any relevant information about the work itself, maybe any research that you can get access to, or anything about what the type of task that this paper is being written for, that will also help. The second step, make sure that you make note of places where the writing is really good and also where it maybe needs a little bit of help. So it's important to not just comment on all the negative things, but to find a lot of the positive things as well. If you find things that are unclear, sentences or ideas that are repeating, maybe the person missed a quotation mark or a citation in their paper, etc., that is completely fine to comment on. But also be sure to leave little comments about where things are going really well, like there are some really good examples here, this quote really illustrates what you're doing, and so on. When you leave your comments, you also want to think about how you give your feedback. For some papers, we are able to leave comments in the margins of the paper, so the left or the right-hand side of the page, which means that we can draw arrows and things that are directly on the paper or very close to where they're going to be. For the next task, we're going to be writing comments as part of discussion board replies, which means that we will have to write our comments a little bit differently than we would directly on a document. You also want to think about your phrasing as well when you leave comments, and how the person who's going to be reading these comments will read them and understand them. So for example, if I'm reading my paper and I'm looking at my MOU and all of a sudden I see, this is absolutely terrible, I'm going to be really offended and I'm going to cry. So as a person who is writing that feedback, we want to think about how we can give comments in ways that are not overly negative or too positive. We don't want to gloss over things where there might be issues and just say that everything is perfect. The last step, do not be afraid to ask questions in your feedback. Feedback does not have to be straight sentences or just short fragments. You can absolutely ask the person to think about new ideas, new ways to phrase things, and so on.